Sure, one last kick. This is gonna be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal. Kvaratskhelia is through, wants to add a fourth, and does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me. That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. A very good evening. Welcome to FA Cup Live this Saturday evening as we kick off a double-header night of action in all Premier League ties. This evening we start at Villa Park as Aston Villa take on Newcastle United in our 5:45 kickoff, followed by Liverpool hosting Brighton a little later on at Anfield. A big night of FA Cup action, and we will have it all the way through to a finish for you this evening. Already, it's been a busy weekend so far. Last night, we saw Chelsea and Wrexham progress from their respective ties. Chelsea winning by 4-0 after beating Hull at the MKM Stadium. We watched that one last night. Pedro Neto's hat-trick and Estevao with the other goal, making it a comfortable victory for Liam Rosenior's side against his former team. And it was a narrow 1-0 victory for Wrexham in that all-championship tie at the Stockhead Ass against Ipswich. Josh Windas's first half goal was the difference to see Wrexham through to round 5. In today's action, there have been 5 games that have kicked off already this afternoon and concluded. We started at lunchtime where Burton took on West Ham United, and they gave them a good game. Did Burton, the League One side, really made West Ham work for it. They took them all the way to extra time. It was goalless after 90 minutes. Crescencio Somerville, though, in the 95th minute, the 5th minute of extra time, gave West Ham the lead. Not long after that, West Ham were down to 10 men. Freddie Potts was shown a straight red card, but Burton couldn't, despite their all fiercest efforts, couldn't get back on terms and ultimately lost by 1-0. Narrow win for the Hammers nonetheless. It was an upset at Turf Moor. Burnley of the Premier League, well, at least for a few months, are knocked out by League One Mansfield. Mansfield going to Turf Moor and winning and coming from behind. Burnley took the lead through Josh Laurent in the first half, but a second half comeback from Mansfield turned it on its head. Rhys Oates with the opener, the equaliser, and Louis Reed with the winner sent Mansfield of League One through to round 5, knocking out Premier League Burnley at Turf Moor. It was comfortable in the end for Manchester City at the Etihad, beating Salford by 2-0, a team they beat 8-0 in the competition last season, so a much more narrow result, you gotta say. An own goal from Alfie Dorrington gave City an early lead, but a late goal from Mark Guehi added a second when City were pushing for more, ultimately late on, but probably a lot closer than you probably would have expected in that one, but ultimately Manchester City through to round 5. In an old championship tie at Carrow Road, it was Norwich that progressed 3-1 against West Bromwich Albion. Magoma with the opening goal. Josh Madja then got the Baggies level before 2 late goals from Chrisen and Toure, who's in hot form since joining at Norwich. 5 in 3 games for him, and he added the third to put the cap on it for the Canaries, who are sailing through to round 5. And in another all-championship tie that went to extra time, between Southampton and Leicester. Southampton took the lead from the penalty spot in the first half with Kyle Lauren, but an equaliser from Oliver Skipp got Leicester back on terms, took it to extra time, and a goal from James Bree in the 109th minute sent Southampton through to the next round and knocking Leicester City out. So those are the results from the weekend so far. 7 teams into round 5 so far. And we will see another 2 progress this evening. And we start here at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Newcastle is our feature game. And let's get the team news for you. Starting with the home side. And Marco Bizot starts in goal. A back 4 of Lemar Bogard, Victor Lindelof, Pau Torres and Luca Digne. In midfield, Amadou Onana is alongside Douglas Luiz, with Ross Barkley in the 10. Morgan Rogers on the right, Leon Bailey on the left, and Tammy Abraham returns into the starting lineup. He starts up front. On the bench, Martinez, Konsa, Mings, Matson, Garcia, Buendia, Sancho, Kone and Watkins. So strength and depth off the bench if they need it, Villa. For Newcastle, some changes, but Eddie Howe said that it doesn't mean that he's not taking this competition seriously. Ramsdale starts in goal, a back 4 of Trippier, Chow, Byrne and Hall, a pretty strong defence. Tonali in midfield, Jacob Ramsey and Jacob Murphy, we believe, are in that similar look in there. And then further forward, Osula is alongside Voltemada and Barnes also in that starting lineup up front for Newcastle. What particular formation, we've yet to find out. But on the bench for the Magpies, Pope, Ruddy, Murphy, Shahar, Alanga, Park, Willock, Gordon and Nave. So options off the bench if Eddie Howe needs it. And I'm sure this all-Premier League battle at Villa Park will go to the wire. They met each other in the Premier League just a few weeks ago. Villa claimed the victory at St James's Park by 2-0. But a different task for Unai Emery's side tonight against the Newcastle side, who won a rare away game just a couple of days ago away at Spurs. But can Villa assert dominance and go through to the next round, or can Newcastle get back-to-back away victories? We'll find out. Kick-off between Aston Villa and Newcastle is on the way next. A very good evening. Welcome to FA Cup Live for this one this evening. As I said, a double header of all Premier League ties for you this evening. And we get in the early evening up in Birmingham at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Newcastle, 2 northern sides. And they're both hoping for a place in round 5, but only one can get there. We will play it to a finish. Extra time and penalties if necessary. As Aston Villa get us underway in the claret and blue home shirts and white shorts, white socks. Newcastle in their 3rd strip, I believe, of green shirts, white shorts and green socks. And they're pretty blended in with the pitch here at Villa Park, I gotta say. The Newcastle players, as Bizot forced into an early long ball. Well, this will be an intriguing battle. You know, as I said about Newcastle's form, and certainly their away form this season has been left a lot to be desired, but certainly turned up in midweek. Oh, here comes Abraham, and in behind for Leon Bailey. Tried to flick it across, but comfortable into the hands of Ramsdale. Villa not looking to waste time there from the off. It's nice from Lewis Hall, who's broke down the left-hand side here. Expecting a really good battle tonight as a fair challenge in there by Bogard, and he's going to get pushed over. It's going to be a free kick. Nick Voltemada, the real physical centre forward of Newcastle, giving away that free kick. It was a good challenge. It was Amadou Onana actually that just won the ball back, and then he was pulled back by Voltemada. Bizot again goes long, sailed over the head of Rogers, but picked up by Tammy Abraham, who couldn't get further forward, knocked it out of play for a throw. Of course, Tammy Abraham back at Aston Villa after quite a few years away. He was at the club, of course, on loan in the 2018-19 season from Chelsea, and he returns on a permanent basis to the club for around £18 million from Besiktas, of course. He did really well in the Championship with Aston Villa back in the 18-19 season. Scored 26 goals in 40 Championship appearances for Aston Villa. Quite incredible. And that was quite a number of years ago, clearly. And he's back at the club and playing centre forward. As Barnes was fouled there. Tonali getting it up and running quickly. Barnes down the left channel. Tonali's continued his run down that side. Here's Lindelof across. Tonali's going to roll it low. Edge of the box. Voltemana couldn't poke it on. Nicely intercepted by Luiz. Picked up here by Barkley. And Bogard will just play it back to Lindelof and across now to Marco Bizot. I have to say, I cannot say Marco Bizot's name any different to the way Unai Emery said it in that viral clip. Incredible little clip. Here's Leon Bailey. Across to Barkley. Now Douglas Luiz. There's a little bit of a throwback vibe about Villa over the last few weeks. That new energy of being a team that are very much in the competition and pushing for Champions League football this for next season. But also on top of that, you know, bringing Douglas Luiz back into the midfield as he actually does something really silly there. Waits for the challenge and gives away a foul on a pull. And that's going to be a free kick, yeah. Nick Voltemata was quick to it. As Douglas Luiz knew he was dispossessed, he dragged back the Newcastle striker. And he's going to get himself a cheap yellow card for that inside just 4 minutes here. Just as I was singing his praises. And he gets himself a booking. That's what I mean about this throwback vibe. Douglas Luiz was a real top quality player. He was certainly in the early days of Unai Emery, a player they really couldn't do without in that midfield. Villa. That's nice pressure here from Rodgers. Trippier was closed down, but Trippier did enough on the rebound to deal with the situation. Now the ball played to Voltemata, deeper in that kind of attacking midfielder role, shadow striker role in a sense. Here's Murphy down the right side. Trippier plays it back inside to Ramsey, the former Villa player. Jacob Ramsey couldn't quite squeeze it through the lines, and Barkley is there to break it apart. Nice play by Abraham. Lovely little flick ball down the left channel it comes here for Villa. Hooked over the top looking for the run of Barkley. Abraham was quick, won it back and now finds Bailey. Leon Bailey on his left foot. Shot was blocked. Rebounded back by Onana to Bogard. Good high tempo game this from the off. Both sides not looking to wait around, being more direct, being more aggressive. That's what we like to see. As Newcastle retrieve here in the middle. Voltemata with his back to goal. Plays it back to Lewis Hall now. Barnes. Back to Malik Chow and all the way back to Aaron Ramsdale. Nice through ball here by Ramsey. Finds Trippier. Chips it towards the box. Head of Voltemata. Flicked on. Taken in by Barnes at the left side. Barnes tries to swing it back. Ramsey couldn't quite get his shot off. Well challenged by Onana. There's a bit of a deflection there. Actually took it right into the path of Pau Torres, who could intercept. But Villa a little bit vulnerable on occasion. I have to say, both sides are going with a really open attacking approach from the off here. As I said, they're both not looking to sit deep and soak up pressure. They're both trying to apply the pressure. get players forward quickly. It's a really intriguing approach from both teams. Here's Harvey Barnes. Inside to Voltamana, back it goes to Hall, and across now to Byrne, Chow, now Trippier. Nice play. Voltamana comes really deep for the receive possession. Switch ball out to the left-hand side. Beautifully taken in by Barnes. Drifts in feet now, Harvey Barnes. Going to shoot from range. And it was dragged well wide. It was always going wide. Right up for the shot, Harvey Barnes. And just really didn't get the clean connection on it. Was always dragging it well wide of the goal. And goes behind for a goal kick. Well, there's a man in the crowd that none of the players on the pitch will be looking to impress. Thomas Tuchel, the England head coach. And quite a few of the players on the field will be hoping that they're in his plans for the World Cup in the summer. And they'll be hoping they're on the plane to the USA, Canada and Mexico come June, July time. And there's no doubt one man, I'm sure, if he keeps his form up, Morgan Rogers will be getting a first-class ticket to that plane, I'm sure. It's been a real revelation for Villa, albeit not to disrespect him. He was really good last season, but this season his importance to Aston Villa has continued to grow, and his quality has been quite fantastic. And last season he accumulated 8 Premier League goals and 10 assists across the campaign, 37 appearances. He's made 26 appearances this season, already matched his goal tally of last campaign of 8 and 5 assists. So in terms of his overall impact, it is down, but he's matching and getting into goal-scoring situations more often and taking those chances more often this season. And of course has already scored in the FA Cup this campaign. Scored in round 3. Aston Villa in that 2-1 away win at Spurs. Morgan Rogers getting that second goal to give Villa a really dominant first half lead, if you remember that game we watched. I think that was also a Saturday evening game, and when the draw was done on the Monday night, we said Villa haven't had it easy this campaign so far. Back-to-back all Premier League ties in the competition. That night in round 3 they absolutely bossed Tottenham. Spurs were by far the second best, and Aston Villa just completely destroyed them. Bizot under a bit of pressure, nicely worked though by Douglas Luiz, who was calm and composed and found it back to Lindelof. He's striding forward here, Victor Lindelof, under no duress. Barkley, nice little chink of space to find Rogers. Rolls it out wide to Digne. Digne going for the deep cross, and it's too close to Ramsdale. Yeah, nice idea though. Lindelof breaking forward, creating that little gap in the middle. Villa can try and weave their way through, and again I think the cross from Luca Digne was a little bit lacking in quality. Just lofted cross that was just poorly dealt with, and poorly delivered, shall I say. It was just, didn't have much zip and pace behind it, and it was always going to be a favourite for the goalkeeper, but the build-up was nice. So far in this one we've had one shot apiece, possessions slightly in Newcastle's favour. Waiting for our first shot on target of the evening. Here's Douglas Luiz. Very compacted midfield area. Newcastle playing a 4-4-2 out of possession. Here's Leon Bailey. Villa try and find a seam A little gap where they can squeeze through this Newcastle team. Douglas Luiz. Back it comes again to Lindelof to restart the build-up play. And now Onana. Oh, a little loose, but he forces Voltamana into a press. Creates a little space, but Onana's ball is poor. Nicely recovered by Lindelof on the rebound, though, and Villa keep possession for the moment. Here's Douglas Luiz. Poked it through. Abraham with the first time ball. Trying to go for the 1-2 with Barkley. As Barkley was brought down, and that's going to be a free kick to Aston Villa. Yeah, really good 1-2 touch football there from Abraham and Barkley. Barkley just got it away from Malik Chow, who came in like a bulldozer. And Ross Barkley was taken out. And gets his team a free kick here. The experienced midfielder. 32 years of age. Ross Barkley. He's had his injury problems this season already. He's got his team a free kick here, which Morgan Rogers is standing over. It's a good 30 yards out. Would be an audacious one to take from this distance. Morgan Rogers looks like he's eyeing up for it, unless this is a fake. It is. It's Douglas Luiz who chips it over the top. Abraham's got in behind. He flicked it in. And Tammy Abraham finishes off a fantastic move from Aston Villa that gives them the lead. Straight off the training ground. And Newcastle are the victims to absolute genius from Aston Villa. I said it would have been audacious for Morgan Rogers to take that. And right as they were ready to take it, I said, is it a fake? Well, it was. Douglas Luiz would never left it alone. He snuck up. He chipped it over the top. And Abraham, did he stay onside is the question. He chested it down and flicked it round the goalkeeper. Beautiful goal. No flag up. I don't think there's VAR in this competition yet. But a beautiful ball by Luiz and a flick by Abraham that was guided beautifully past Ramsdale. That is a gorgeous goal from Aston Villa. Whether he was on or off was another question. But the flag never went up, and no VAR means the goal will stand. And Aston Villa do take the lead, but from what I could see, maybe Tammy Abraham was maybe a half yard offside. But take nothing away from the quality of the goal. It's straight off the training ground, and you have to say you love things like that. You see all the same things in football, and you get to the point where you want to see something different, and that was something of unique quality. Just something a little cheeky from Aston Villa. And they used the quality. Oh, given away cheaply here by Bogard. As that is one hell of a wasted opportunity by Willisula. That has to be one of the worst shots I've ever seen. No offence to Willisula, but he was completely off balance and he got a strike all wrong. It went out for a throw-in on the far side. It was that bad a shot. He was gifted an opportunity. Lamar Bogard just was a little lacking in concentration on the ball. Gave the ball away cheaply in his own final third and got away with it. But Willisula's shot was certainly left a lot to be desired, to say the very least. That was nice from Bogard. Played into Leon Bailey. Down the right channel. Chopped inside. Was closed well out by Lewis Hall, and Sandro Tonali picks up the pieces. Well, it's now on Newcastle to bounce back from going behind. Aston Villa take that lead from the set piece, rightfully or wrongfully, whether it was on or offside. Nonetheless, it's something they've got to deal with now, Newcastle. Ramsdale with a long ball in behind. Nicely headed away by Digne. Taken in by Rogers under pressure. Lovely little bit of skill. As Rogers breaks free and he's bursting forward here. He's in a foot race with Voltamana. He's laid it off to Barkley. Down the right-hand side comes Bailey. Gets a little tangle. Cuts it back. Abraham blocked. Rebound was blocked as well and cleared away. Calls a handball. So falls to Lemar Bogard. Down the right-hand side comes Bailey again. Back to Bogard. Bailey. Looking for an outlet here, Villa. Try and really take full advantage of the moments that they're creating it. As Torres with a chip ball. Played back across. Dina Barkley. Didn't catch it well enough. Kind of looped up into the air. But again, they're playing silky stuff at the minute, Aston Villa. Lovely little cutback by Bailey, to Abraham, who clipped it off the arm of Malik Chow, but his arm was by his side, is what the referee said. And of course, as I said, no VAR. So it wasn't reviewed, but again, it looked like it wasn't a penalty. Referee, by the way, Chris Kavanagh. I forgot to mention that. Chris Kavanagh's our referee for this one. And you've got to say, to this point, there's a little issue here. Tammy Abraham, there's a real issue. Seems like an ankle problem as we see the goal again. Yeah, lovely ball by Douglas Luiz. Flicked over the top, chested down by Abraham and flicked in behind on the reverse. Past the goalkeeper. He was offside. It looked like a clear half-yard offside, but nonetheless, the flag stayed down and Villa get the goal. And I'm sure, see the celebrations from Douglas Luiz. He's happy with that. And Eddie Howe certainly isn't. His team have some troubles at the minute. Villa have really just taken a firm grip of the game in the last 5-10 minutes. As Tammy Abraham returns to his feet, and it's one thing they'll not want to see is their goal scorer with an injury. He seems okay. He's able to jog off the field. He should be okay, Tammy Abraham. Switch ball by Chow. Taken down by Barnes. Played into Voltemata. Surrounded by three. Voltemata shakes them off. Feeds it out to the right-hand side. Trippier trying to return the favour back to Voltemata. Now on the right channel. Very mobile between the lines so far, Voltemata. Without real much joy in the attacking third, though, for Newcastle. Poked in behind by Trippier. Cross was blocked from Murphy. Picked back up again, though, by Ramsey, who was shielded out by the backtracking Rodgers. And it's cleared away by Aston Villa. Well, 20 minutes gone. Aston Villa lead by a goal to nil. Newcastle, a long way to go in this one. But Villa take the lead and give themselves something to hang on to. And certainly the history books don't make good reading for Newcastle. Aston Villa have knocked Newcastle out 4 times from the FA Cup. In 1894-95, 1896-97, 1904-05 and the 2000-2001 season. And they lost the other 2 ties in the 23-24 final and the third round in 51-52, did Villa. But 4 times they've beaten Newcastle in this competition. But only once in the last 121 years. Lovely little interchange between Voltemata and Barnes, who skips away from a few. Plays it down the right-hand side. Barnes poked on by Trippier. Into Murphy. Back it goes to Trippier, who loops it into the box over the head of Sula. Taken down by Hall, who's dribbling through, wanted a penalty as he went down, but referee waved it away, and Villa will get a free kick here. A foul on Abraham is going to get Villa a bit of respite, but I don't know whether Lewis Hall really was wanting a penalty or not there. Of course, he would have taken it, but didn't. It wasn't. Yeah, there's nothing in that. Lindelof does outstretch a leg, but his leg was planted, and Hall just kind of holds himself over it in a sense. For want of a better phrase, but he just kind of dived over it. It's not a penalty. 22 minutes gone, and the game's had a good flow about it so far. I do feel that the game really has kind of got off to a good start. Albeit Newcastle won't feel that, being 1-0 down, but they've played some decent stuff too. Just think Aston Villa are taking a bit of control now, and I think Newcastle just need to upset the apple cart a little bit, just shake it about a bit. And they need to get some possession, take the ball down, make some passes, sustain a bit of pressure on Villa, because at the minute Villa are finding it too easy to really alleviate that pressure and break away from any sort of Newcastle threat. Aston Villa are just comfortable. It's one thing you got to say about Villa. Although they have real great threat in transition with pacey players, they're comfortable with the ball too. They're not afraid to keep a hold of the ball, as Barkley made a run in behind. Nicely shielded by Tonali, but the idea was to find the running Ross Barkley. Ultimately well dealt with by Newcastle. Baltamara back to Byrne, and now across to Ramsdale. That's a forced ball by Chow into really space of no Newcastle players. Ultimately Douglas Luiz can't make much of the possession, but forcing the issue a little bit. Newcastle, they just need to settle down, get some possession, work their way back into this game, take the sting out of it in Aston Villa. Try and apply some pressure of their own. It's easier said than done though. Newcastle actually haven't scored in any of the last two meetings against Aston Villa. A 2-0 defeat at home a few weeks ago, and a 0-0 draw here at Villa Park on the opening weekend of the season. Sees Newcastle without a goal against Villa since April 2025, so April last year when they lost 4-1 here at Villa Park. Need to break that duck, Newcastle. That's a lovely tick down by Rodgers, but he was held as he tried to break away. That's going to be a yellow card for Malik Chow, who's looked a little bit like a deer in headlights in the first 25 minutes. Just hasn't really got the right decisions, whether to really commit to a player or step off and allow them to try and make of their own, if you know what I mean. He's really either done the wrong thing, either committed in the wrong moments or stood off in the wrong moments, and on that occasion he committed and ultimately gave away a free kick and got himself a yellow card. Well, these two have quite a number of meetings in the past, 161 to be exact. Here's Leon Bailey trying to work his way through and past Barnes and Hall, but nicely stolen away as Barnes' ball towards Asula was well left, a lot to be desired. I mean, it was really short. And Lamar Bogard had it all covered over. As I was saying, 161 previous meetings, 70 have been won by Newcastle, 53 have been won by Villa, and there have been 38 draws. Of course, we can't have a draw in tonight's game. Officially, one team will win. Douglas Luiz finds Lucadinha, whips a ball in off the head of the on-running man, and I think that was Leon Bailey who threw himself at it. It was. It goes wide of the post, but again, finding that ball out wide, Villa, on the left-hand side, and those early crosses from Lucadinha. This time it was a good cross, met the head of Leon Bailey, who had to dip for it, and in the end headed it well wide. Whether he maybe could have connected with his feet there, It's another question, but Leon Bailey decided his head was the right option and ultimately went wide of the post. Sula trying to link it up with his teammates and Ramsey. Been isolated so far, Willa Sula. The only real glimpse that he's had was that wayward shot a good 20 minutes ago when he made an absolute meal of it. That's the only real involvement he's had. Villa have just had this under control so far, albeit they've actually had less possession. But they've had 5 shots to Newcastle's 2, the key goal, of course. And they've just managed, even when Newcastle have had the ball, they've been managing it well. Although here comes Ramsey on the breakaway. Little through ball, he was well shielded, says the referee. He wanted a penalty, Ramsey, but the home fans not too happy with the former Villa player there. And it's just going to be Villa ball here. Again, Newcastle just looking like they're just disjointed at the minute. Bailey was fairly challenged there, though. That was nice from Ramsey. But again, nowhere to go for Newcastle on that. Tonali feeds it out to the right channel. He's got Trippier on the touchline. Back inside to Tonali. Right, Trippier again, and back to Malik Chow. They're just lacking that option to get on the ball and drive it forward. Newcastle, they're very pussyfooting around Aston Villa at the minute. That's the only phrase I can really say. They're not really trying to get into them. They're lacking those central movements, the central players, and then they play silly passes. Another one from Malik Chow, really sloppy ball, picked up by Barkley. Now finds Abraham. Abraham in the box, got no one really on offer and goes towards goal. Caught in by Ramsdale, but another sloppy ball by Malik Chow. And I really think it comes down to there's no one in the middle for Newcastle. I mean, we talk about Newcastle's midfield being so good when they've got Joe Linton and Guimaraes and Tonali, and it's because they have the balance. They've such good balance in that midfield when those three are playing, because they know when to attack, they know when to get back, they know when to sit on the ball, they know when to pass it around and dominate, and also be physical. They've got a real good balance chemistry, those three. And when maybe one of them, or even if two of them, like tonight, is out, it looks really disjointed for Newcastle. Well, here's a ball in behind for Barnes. Wanted a penalty, again goes down. The referee's going to point for a goal kick. He's claiming for it, but clean challenge by Lamar Bogard, says the referee. Goal kick given. See it again here. Nice ball, actually, this time. He was just onside Barnes and makes a good angled run in behind Lamar Bogard. Bogard does just enough. It's not a penalty. Looks a little soft to me. Yeah, they both got a grip of each other. They're both going for the ball. There's nothing in it. Goal kick. But I just think Newcastle at the minute, they just look disjointed, and albeit they can very easily change. They get their wingers involved, as they tried to do there with Barnes, and they'll create kind of options in the wide areas. They can be a threat, but through the middle, they've just looked well off it so far, and that's what's kind of created this kind of isolating atmosphere for Voltamana and Asula. Not much link up there. Ramsey not really able to link it up so far, and it's just look. I mean, Jacob Murphy too. Many times that we said his name in the game, it's a lot of Newcastle's possession has been with their defenders. I've not really seen much of their midfielders and attackers so far, and that's what I mean by disjointed. Whether it could be a little tactical tweak, someone move into this position, someone drop and play an extra pass or a little deeper and try and link up those moves, like maybe a Jacob Ramsey who can link things up between the lines. But so far, Villa have done a real decent job that just isolated the midfielders and created no space in the middle for Newcastle to play through. And even when they've tried to play those passes in the central areas, Newcastle, a lot of the time, Villa are getting pressure on the ball. Onana and Luiz and winning it back. Even Barkley as well. 32 minutes gone. Villa lead by a goal to nil. The longer it stays like that, the more confidence I'm sure Newcastle will receive, and maybe that will help in their favour. Barnes tried to be a little too quick there to find Byrne on the move. You just want to throw in though, but maybe trying something a little different here. Back to Malik Chow. As Byrne strides back into his more normal position at centre back. Plays it out to Lewis Hall. Tonali. Going over the top, looking for the overlap of Trippier, but that was really nicely done by Morgan Rogers, who's in his own box here at the minute, trying to dribble around, and Villa are in such comfortable control. I mean, Morgan Rogers is dribbling around his own 18-yard box here at the minute. No pressure on the ball. Cleared away by Torres. That was a poor ball. Poor clearance, picked up by Barnes. Nice little flick by Asula. Barnes in behind! And he struck the side netting. Now that's where they can be a threat, Newcastle. It was a poor clearance by Pau Torres, really. Just kind of looped it into the middle. Picked up well by Chow, who pushed in well this time to put pressure on the ball. And as he plays it through to Asula, rolled it, flicked it in behind for Barnes on the inside run. And as Barnes broke in behind, he got the shot off just at a narrow angle. Bezot, I think, had it covered anyway, and it hits the side netting. A little better, though, from Newcastle. I think kind of Villa played themselves into that issue, though. Morgan Rogers dribbling around his own 18-yard box. Maybe a little bit complacent there, Villa. Just over 10 minutes to go in the first half. Here's the home side who lead. And there's a flag for offside in midfield. I don't know how a Newcastle player was offside there. They were, but I don't know how that's happened. And offside it is. Free kick to Villa. That's nice from Bailey, breaking through the poor ball, just overhead it. And well away from Tammy Abraham ultimately, but Leon Bailey picked up a pocket of space there and could have made more of it. Here's Malik Chow. Back to Trippier. Chow again. Trippier plays it back to Ramsdale. Quite a lot of the ball so far around Ramsdale. 21 touches the Newcastle goalkeepers had to this point. Albeit Marco Bezot's had the same, so I don't know what point I was making there, but it didn't land. Both goalkeepers have been equally involved. Reminder for you, we've a second All-Premier League tie to come for you a little later on. Liverpool taking on Brighton at Anfield, 8 o'clock kickoff. Of course, this one's was a quarter to 6 kickoff, so there'll be very little break time in between. This goes the extra time. We're sodding off that next game because we'll have no time to cover it because it's such a quick, tight turnaround. I mean, if we work out the minutes, this game should be over by around about 25 to 8. If we go to extra time, we're already heading past 8 o'clock anyway. So, fingers crossed in terms of a broadcasting situation, a live streaming situation, if you're hoping to see that Liverpool-Brighton game here on LFS a little later. that this one doesn't go to extra time. Albeit, if it does, we'll keep you up to date with that other game as best as we can, but you know what I mean. Here's Douglas Luiz. Bit of space, going to shoot from range! And Ramsdale had to see that one away. He's got it in his locker, Douglas Luiz. And that one wasn't too far away. Ramsdale saw it sail over his crossbar, but Douglas Luiz, real pile driver of an effort, just lifted as it heads towards the goal, and he's got that class about him, Douglas Luiz. The Brazilian almost pulled off an audacious attempt there. Actually hasn't scored in a long while, Douglas Luiz. Think about it, the last time he scored a goal was when he played for Aston Villa in the 23-24 season, when he scored 9 Premier League goals, when he scored 10 goals in that on all comps for Villa that season. He didn't score in his spell at Juventus, and he didn't score at Forest before rejoining Aston Villa a few weeks ago. So he hasn't scored a club goal since he was last at Aston Villa. And if my stats are correct, his last goal was against Nottingham Forest when he scored 2 at Villa Park in February of 2024. Almost 2 years to the day since Douglas Luiz last scored a club goal. And his last 3 club goals have all come at Villa Park. So he certainly has an aura about Villa Park. He loves trying to find the net, Douglas Luiz. Ciao. 6 minutes to go with the half. Villa lead by a goal to nil. Good switch ball here by Ciao, as Hall had it under control until he didn't. Couldn't take that one in. And the home crowd with their ironic jeers. They look a little worried, Jason Tyndall and Eddie Howe on the sideline. It's a little early to be majorly concerned, but you got to be honest, Newcastle really haven't laid a glove on Villa in this first half. They've had 3 shots, but none on target. Really haven't tested Marco Bizot. Really haven't been able to get all of their attackers into the game. They've mostly all struggled. The only one that's really had any sort of glimpse at goal has been Harvey Barnes. All the rest have really struggled to get any sort of attack and threat. Well, that was a good dominant header there. Taken in by Asula. Laid across by Murphy, but well defended. As Trippier receives again. Tonali. Can they have a late first half flurry here, Newcastle? Try and get back on terms. Tonali. Yeah, not much movement. That seems to be the issue. They're all standing still, Newcastle. Need a bit of movement between the lines if you're going to drag Villa out of position and create something. Here's Voltemade. If I'm honest, oh, Digne, what has he done here? That's a really rash challenge. He's going to get himself a yellow card, but that was really rash from Luca Digne on Jacob Murphy. Some calls from the visiting fans of off, off, off. They wanted a red, but it's just going to be a yellow for Luca Digne. My goodness. Oh, he's very lucky here, Luca Digne. That very easily could be a red. I think he's lucky. It's a yellow card, but just... it's one of those ones, it's an orange card. Oh, and he's certainly cut Jacob Murphy. He's rolled down the sock in the true style of, look, ref, look what he's done to me. To try and change the decision. It's a yellow card, and of course no VAR, so it will stay that way. And Paul Tierney making the explanation, the 4th official to the Newcastle coaches there, Tyndall and High. Yeah, I can definitely see there is stakes of a red card there, but I think it just doesn't come through the man. He kind of glazes him, or grazes him is the right word there. And yes, he does make contact, but he grazes him. And I think if he does make full force contact, it's a red card, no doubt. But he just gets lucky, Luca Digne. Any further contact, and that could have been a red. But yellow it stands. A free kick to Newcastle here on the right-hand side. Trippier over it. Right-footed delivery. Into the area. Headed on, and not much pace behind it by Voltemata. It was going wide anyway. Marco Bizot made the claim, but it didn't have much pace behind it from Voltemata. Actually come off Lindelof last. And Marco Bizot was there to smother it. If I was to make a change, if I was Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall, I don't think the centre forward dynamic's working at the minute. Between Voltemata and Asula, I think they're in wrong. They need to be swapped. Voltemata's deeper and Asula's further forward. I would have probably said if it was going to be that way, I would have swapped them. Asula a little deeper. He seems to be a little bit more agile, a little bit more kind of free flowing with his body and can move in between tight spaces. Voltemata seems to be the big dominator up front. And I would have thought that would have been the way they would have worked it if there was going to be that main striker and then the shadow striker just behind him. But they've actually put Voltemata a little deeper and Asula further forward, which I'm kind of surprised at. It's just not really worked in this first half at all. Villa have a corner here, by the way, on the right-hand side. About a minute or so to go with the first half. We'll see how long we added on top of that. Aston Villa with the corner. Believe it or not, the first corner of the game. Leon Bailey to take. Left-footed, it's low. It's actually cleared away. Bailey picks it back up on the rebound. Flicked into the area, brought down. Not really away by Newcastle. Edge of the area. Flicked on. And behind Abraham across. And Byrne to clear it away again. They're claiming for offside there, Newcastle. It's going to be a corner, but they were desperate for offside flag to go up against Tammy Abraham again. It's going to be another Aston Villa corner. Again, I didn't like how standoffish Newcastle were from that corner from Villa. Ball only left the 18-yard box because Villa wanted it to. Not because Newcastle cleared it away. Bailey to deliver this time, again. 3 Villa players at the front post as they stride back into the mix. Let's go short though, Bailey. To Pau Torres, who tries to whip it across the byline. Bailey again gets the block, puts it behind for another corner off Hall. We will have 1 additional minute at the end of the half here. Newcastle need to hang on. I mean, my goodness, Pau Torres, not the player you would have expected to be doing skills on the byline from a short corner, but he did. Ultimately, the cross was not the best, and corner taker's going to change. Luca Digne is going to take it. Let's see what sort of delivery comes of this. Digne whips it in, flicked on. Actually flicked away from goal, and Bailey's there to pick up the pieces. Tried to recycle it forward, but gives it away, and now Newcastle have got bodies up the field. Marco Bizot's committed himself. He's taken a man out, and he's off the pitch. It's a straight red card for the Aston Villa goalkeeper. And that is a horrendous call from the Villa goalkeeper, who's come flying out of the traps and is going to be sent down the tunnel right at the end of the first half here. It's all kicked off. And Unai Emery cannot believe it. I mean, what on earth is Marco Bizot doing? I mean, he's stupid. What? He's still arguing with the referee. I don't know what he's arguing for. It's a red card, you're off, and rightfully so. I mean, how can you come from almost to the halfway line, take someone out, and then claim that you shouldn't be sent off? I mean, what on earth is he thinking? I mean, I don't even know what argument you would make. His leg is halfway up the body of Jacob Murphy by the time it makes contact. I mean, horrendous challenge. I don't believe it. It's a red card for Aston Villa, and it's given a real shake-up to the end of this first half, but Marco Beza, I mean, he's going to review it. He's reviewing it on the sideline. I mean, honestly. I mean, I just don't understand the rationale. And yeah, it's a in the moment decision. But how on earth can a goalkeeper make that decision, even if you're going to concede? Right? You concede, and that happens, and it's just poor play from Aston Villa, and they concede a goal. But a goalkeeper coming 50 yards off out of his own box to try and make a challenge, and then make an awful challenge like he did, and expect not to be sent off. I mean, it's madness. And now the question is going to be, well, they need a goalkeeper. Emi Martinez is coming on, and it's Leon Bailey who's going to make way. Leon Bailey, who has looked at a few bright moments, but again, it's a tough decision for Unai Emery to make, and he needs a goalkeeper. And Emi Martinez is now going to have a tough job. 10-man Aston Villa will have a whole second half with one less a player than their opponents, but with a 1-goal lead, it seems, unless Newcastle can create something from this free kick, which is surely the last action of the half. Sandro Tonali to take. This would be one hell of a twist. Tonali taking his time, goes short. Down the left-hand side to Barnes, who couldn't get past his man, and Ross Barkley, who gives away a free kick, but nonetheless, the first half is over. And what a chaotic first half at Villa Park. It looked like it was all plain sailing for Aston Villa. They probably could have even went further ahead towards the end of that half. But a moment of pure and utter calamity from Marco Bizot to come crashing out of his goal and completely hack his way through Jacob Murphy has seen him sent off. But Tammy Abraham's goal, that probably shouldn't have been a goal for offside, is a goal. And Villa lead at half-time, but are down to 10 men. I mean, it's as chaotic an FA Cup tie as you can get. And more of the same for the second half, please. Half-time, it's Aston Villa 1, Newcastle 0. But Villa are down to 10. Second half on the way very shortly. And we'll analyse what a chaotic first half that was when we come back. Do stay with us. Sure, one last kick. This is going to be it. This is the moment. Vicario kicks this. And Liverpool are there. Liverpool are Premier League champions. And there it comes. Crystal Palace, for the very first time in their history, are FA Cup winners. Oh, he's found the net. Oh, what a goal. Kvaratskhelia is through. Wants to add a fourth. And does so. Ahmad, oh my goodness me. That is absolutely unbelievable. Rice again. Oh! You thought he couldn't beat the first one. He's gone and bettered it. Another whip ball in. The header is in by Virgil van Dijk. Incredible. Welcome back to FA Cup Live. Second half between Aston Villa and Newcastle is on the way very shortly in what has been a mad first half of this game. Earlier this afternoon, West Ham script their way past League One Burton to go through to round 5. Mansfield of League One knocked out Premier League Burnley at Turf Moor, coming from behind the League One side. Manchester City edged their way past Salford 2-0 at the Etihad. It was 3-1 to Norwich in that all championship tie against West Brom. In the other all championship tie, it was Southampton 2, Leicester 1 after extra time. As I said, Villa 1, Newcastle 0 at the break here. Villa down to 10. Marco Bizot shown a straight red card. And a big game to come a little later for you in our second game of the evening as Liverpool take on Brighton. An 8 o'clock kickoff from Anfield, and team news should be dropping from that one very soon. For that one, that's an 8 o'clock kickoff. Fingers crossed that we won't have to go to extra time in this game, because otherwise that Liverpool-Brighton stream will be delayed. No doubt about it. It's such a tight turnaround. But you got to say, the joys of the FA Cup. And of course, if needs be, if the game is level, this game is level after 90 minutes, extra time and penalties will be used if necessary to decide a winner. We are yet to see a penalty shootout this weekend. We've had 2 visits to extra time, but they've both been won in extra time, those games. West Ham and Southampton winning their respective ties in extra time, but yet to find a penalty shootout in round 4 as of yet. But we've still quite a few games to go. Of course, after tonight, tomorrow we've 5 games. We will round off the day tomorrow at 4:30 as Arsenal take on Wigan. At 4:30, that's our tie tomorrow at 4:30, and then we round off on Monday night when Macclesfield take on Brentford. 7:30 kickoff, and we'll have the draw, of course, confirmation of the 5th round draw when we join you for that one. Just confirmation of that. This is an old graphic, but just confirmation of the games that we have across the weekends. Well, a big second half to come, and Aston Villa lead, but I mean, the goal was clearly offside. They're down to 10. It's as FA Cup chaos as you could ask for, and what more could we want? Hopefully, more drama and more excitement for the second half. What's on the way in just about a minute's time. Do stay with us. Welcome back to FA Cup Live for the 4th round, as we are going to get the second half between Aston Villa and Newcastle underway in just a moment. But a reminder for you, as I've already stated, that with Liverpool taking on Brighton in our second All-Premier League tie of the evening, it kicks off at 8 o'clock tonight from Anfield. Liverpool, who knocked out Barnsley in round 3, of course, that actually rounded off at round 3, of course, if you remember it. And Brighton, who had that great away win at Man United in round 3 as well. And that is the setup for the second game of the night. Jimbo in the chat says Aston Villa's goal was offside. It was, no doubt about that. We saw the replay quite clearly, but of course no VAR in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. Or the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. And that means it stands. If it's on the field standing, that means it's not going to be overturned because there's no one to overturn it. But what a crazy first half. And what will Unai Emery be trying to scheme up with his players? He's a master tactician, Unai Emery, but he's going to need to rely upon a little bit more than just tactics. 100% concentration from his players between now and the final whistle, and hoping surely that they can hold on to this lead. But it will be all eyes on Newcastle and how they can try and find the advantage against 10-man Aston Villa. They turn this FA Cup tie around. Well, no half-time changes, by the way. Of course, there was a sub made just at the end of the first half from Villa when Caoimhan Martinez came on to replace Marco Bizot. Ultimately, Leon Bailey was sacrificed at the cost of that. As Villa want to get put under pressure early doors here by Newcastle. Jacob Ramsey winning a corner right away off Pau Torres. And this will be big questions for the second half for Newcastle. Can they break down this Villa defence? Really not laid a glove on them in the whole of the first half, but that was 11 v 11. Corner taken short by Hall. Tonali. Back to Lewis Hall. Into the box, waiting for an opportunity. The strike! Through the amount of bodies by Barnes, but easily retrieved by Caoimhan Martinez. Yeah, the amount of bodies that had to travel through that Harvey Barnes shot just took the pace off it. Allowed Caoimhan Martinez to gather. Villa are going to have a real tough job in the second half. I know that being with that one less player on the field, they're going to have to be really selective with their attack and play. And really smart out of possession. And really concentrated and strong. And rigid. All those usual words that teams again with 10 men have to be. Here's Trippier trying to time that to perfection, but Jacob Murphy straight offside. Flag goes up. Who knows whether the assistant, I don't know whether it is the same assistant on that side from the first half. I would suspect so. Of course, if it is, then this is the assistant that allowed the Villa goal, and I'm sure he's going to hear a lot about it from that crowd behind him, the travelling Newcastle support. And the flag's up again, this time against Villa. Morgan Rogers straying on offside that time. Here's Trippier. Poor ball. Right at Luca Digne. And Digne wins a throw-in out of Kieran Trippier. Of course, question marks over whether Luca Digne should still be on the field after his real rash challenge in the first half that got him a yellow card. Very easily could have been a different colour. Digne goes for the throw down the line. Header by Chow, but back into the path of Digne, who picks it up and wins another throw-in off Jacob Ramsey. Of course, we've already slightly mentioned the fact that Jacob Ramsey was an Aston Villa player. Haven't really gone into depth with it. Of course, he spent a lot of his early career at Aston Villa, came through the youth ranks at Villa, but of course decided to make a change for his career just this summer and joined Newcastle for just under £40 million, Jacob Ramsey, in the summer. Jacob Ramsey actually scored in the 2-1 win over Spurs in midweek. Scored the winner ultimately to get a big away victory for Newcastle, only their third away victory of the season in the Premier League in midweek. And that was the defeat for Spurs that ended the tenure of Thomas Frank, of course, at Tottenham. Of course, the news today that Igor Tudor has been appointed as the new Spurs boss on interim charge till the end of the season. Of course, his first game that he'll take charge of, the new Spurs boss, will be the North London derby next weekend. A nice and easy one for him to get underway. Well, so far, I gotta say, the little amount of movement that Newcastle have had down this right-hand side. Certainly that's been the majority of their play in the second half so far. First couple of minutes. Kieran Trippier's been the man to play the passes, and so far really hasn't found much joy down that side. It's about finding the right angles and the right timing. Oh, a little short there from Martinez. Just about got it out to Lindelof. Now Barkley on the half turn, closed out. Cleared away though by Pau Torres, and Rodgers tries to use his skill to get round Hall, although he couldn't do without pulling down Lewis Hall. And that's going to be a free kick to Newcastle, taken quickly. They want to garner some momentum in this game. Murphy, deep cross, too close to Martinez. He had it all well under control, the Aston Villa goalkeeper. Martinez rolls it out to Lindelof, and then back to the Villa goalkeeper. Goes long trying to find Tammy Abraham there, the Martinez, but unable to link it up. We know Newcastle are going to dominate a lot of possession in the second half, but again, as I said, it's about doing the right things, finding the right options, making the right passes, and being patient in the right moments as well, not forcing the issue, but also being aggressive enough to put pressure on the 10-man team. It's a fine balance to try and garner, as Barnes tried to break forward, and he thought he was fouled, but it's actually going to go the other way. It's going to be booked for simulation here, Harvey Barnes. The referee was quite certain of it. Yeah, there's nothing in that. Bogart does absolutely nothing wrong, and Harvey Barnes gets himself a yellow card. Pretty stupidly, really. Yellow card for the Newcastle winger. And 7 minutes gone of the second half. Villa 1, Newcastle 0. Villa down to 10, of course, after Marco Bizot was dismissed at the end of the first half. Jaime Martinez with a free kick here on the edge of his area. Kicks it long. As expected, Byrne wins the header, taken down in the second header by Luis, and a tricky move here by Barkley, who does really well in a tight space, but couldn't quite find the forward pass. Gone out for a throw, but nice from Ross Barkley though in a tight space. He's done well in those pockets so far in this game. Gonna have a few and far between though in the second period, you would suspect. Murphy to Trippier. Chow across to Byrne. Down the left hand side it comes to Hall. Lots of Villa players committed to their own area and very central. Space for the fullbacks, but Hall's laid it down the line. Barnes couldn't get past Barkley, who dropped in. Hall and Barnes. Right to Voltemata, who's dropped a little deeper, but gets a little bit caught in possession. Still trying to scramble for it, and Rodgers just about loses out to his opposite number, but didn't give up without a fight there, and that ball in behind was too far ahead of Trippier. Goal kick to Villa. They just don't have that cohesion at the minute, Newcastle. I just don't understand it. They're looking a little bit lacking, and the camera's panned over to Anthony Gordon, who's warming up on the sidelines, but at the minute they just haven't at half-time been able to resolve the fact they've just looked a little bit disjointed. And I really do think it's a midfield issue. Just lacking that player in the middle that can drive them into good positions. Ramsey's not been able to do it very much. He's done well there though to play it off, but really driving forward, if you know what I mean. Here's Barnes stepping in field, lays it back to Tonali. Again, Villa dropping everybody back. Kind of poking in between the lines here, Newcastle, and Ramsey claiming a corner. And the former Villa man says it should have been a corner, but goal kick was given. See it here. Through ball by Trippier, flicked on by Murphy and Ramsey. Did he get a touch there? He did. Whether Douglas Luiz got the last touch is the other question. No, I think it's a goal kick. Something or nothing there from Jacob Ramsey. Frustrated at absolutely nothing because he did have the last touch. Goal kick. And he's been given a yellow card for his frustrations as well. So another pretty cheaply given away yellow card from Newcastle. Only 10 minutes gone in the second half and already showing their frustrations on a few occasions. There's good pressure from Abraham there on Dan Burn. Forces the 6'7" defender into a clearance out for the throw. Well, there is that glimmer for Villa. If they can use Tammy Abraham in the right moments to hold up play, put pressure on Newcastle, pen them back a little bit. That was nice from Rodgers in a tight gap. As they scramble it away now, Newcastle. Not much there for Asula to battle against Lindelof, and nicely guided by Onana. Back to Torres, who gives it back to Emi Martinez. Chased down by Asula, but Lindelof has it under control and does really well. Martinez under pressure from Asula. Poor pass, and Pau Torres trying to clear it away. That was a bit sloppy from Villa. Really good from Will Asula, though. Didn't give up on that ball, not a single second, and ultimately Villa made an absolute meal of it. In the response, Jacob Ramsey makes a meal of that pass and goes for a goal kick. The crowd taking no prisoners when it comes to their former player tonight. No love lost, clearly. Well, the home crowd trying to be that 11th man rather than the usual 12th man. And try and even things up a little bit here for Aston Villa. Albeit they've done well, the 10 in claret so far in the 12 minutes we've played of this second half, but it's going to get trickier from here on out as there's a Villa player down. That's the last thing they need, less bodies on the field in action. Here's Murphy. Runs into Tammy Abraham, who just stands in his way, and now Villa on the breakaway. Still a player down. Was going to stop it, but Rodgers, like Lazarus, rises. And Onana on his own here down the left. He's done well to keep it on. And as he was pushed over, wins a free kick for Aston Villa. That's fantastic from Amadou Onana. He tries to get the crowd in response, and Rodgers still in pain, but see it here, he just went in with up with a challenge with Dan Burn, and he landed a little awkwardly here. Rodgers on his left shoulder. Oh, he just kind of jarred his shoulder with his elbow knocking into the ground, and he just jarred his shoulder there a little bit. In pain, but okay to continue for the moment. I gotta say, when it looked like Villa were going to put the ball out of play, he just popped up at the last second, Rodgers, from being down on the ground. I was like, don't put it out of play, keep it in play. I'm fine. And Onana wins this free kick from that situation. An opportunity here for Villa. Set piece. They scored from one in the first half. Illegitimately, but they scored nonetheless. Digne, ball into the area. Up off the head of Onana in there. It's brought down by Pau Torres, who's kept it alive in the box. Wide to Barkley. Barkley rolls it back the way to Lindelof. He has to go all the way back to Emi Martinez. Good pressing from Newcastle. Martinez goes long, trying to swing it in behind, but no takers for Villa on that long ball. Hall tried to arrow it in behind, but a good block by Onana again. Given away cheaply by Barkley, though. Tonali now finding Ramsey. To Trippier. Into Tonali again, and Trippier has to rescue something, but he doesn't. There's a lack of real concentration from Newcastle at the minute. They're getting really frustrated by their lack of cohesion. And it continues to be a problem that the coaching staff have to resolve. They've added an extra man. They've got one of the backroom staff now involved with the conversation with Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall. Continues at this rate, they'll be having a whole team meeting on the sidelines here, the Newcastle coaches. At the minute, their team are struggling to really penetrate Villa. They did it, struggled when it was 11v11, and they're still struggling with an extra man advantage on the field. Voltamara, well shielded and pressured, but he does well to dig out a ball. Finds Trippier, he tried the cross, blocked by Digne. And what's the referee given here? He's given a free kick. They wanted a penalty. Newcastle are desperate to say that it was handball and penalty. Referee says handball, free kick. We'll have to see a replay, but this game has been crazy and mental so far. It's just going to get even more mental. And they have their own monitor on the sidelines. They'll have definitive clear view. Digne's already on a yellow as well. This is... what on earth is going on here? I mean, there is no question. Look at Digne's about 3 or 4 yards in the box. If he gives handball, it has to be a penalty. I mean, if this... wow. If there's ever an advertisement that VAR is good for football, it's this game. Because the referee and assistants have been woeful. Every single decision they've made, bar the red card, have been awful. The goal shouldn't have stood. Digne probably could have been shown a red card. And now Newcastle have a free kick from a handball that was given inside the box. But the referee really probably, I don't know what he's seen, but he's given it as a free kick. I mean, if ever there was a way of proving that someone's on the take, it's this game. I'm not trying to accuse the referee of being biased, but my goodness, these are terrible decisions. Definitely should have been a penalty if he gave a handball. It was inside the box, look at Digne. Free kick though it is. Trippier whips it in. Punched away by Martinez. Falls to Tonali. Deflection takes it in. And maybe a bit of poetic justice for Newcastle. They probably should have had a penalty. But nonetheless, they have a levelling goal. And it's 1-1. Football finds a way of finding justice. And in one of the most horrendous decisions we've ever seen. A free kick that should have been a penalty. But from the second phase of the set piece, Sandro Tonali's shot takes a deflection and finds Newcastle's leveller. I mean, it's poetic justice at its finest. Good strike from Tonali. Wicked deflection off the backside of Douglas Luiz. Wrong foot's the goalkeeper. No chance, 1-1. And my goodness me, do Newcastle deserve it, you gotta say, because they've had one hell of a tough run of it in this game. And 63 minutes gone, Tonali levels. And now it's momentum in Newcastle's favour. And they're going to bring on some substitutions to help the process. Anthony Gordon and Anthony Alanga are going to come on, sorry. And Aston Villa get us back underway at 1-1. What a mental game. The joys of the FA Cup. Now Villa look a little bit panicked. The referee's just going to let them off the hook here with a free kick. Jacob Ramsey committing a foul on Amadou Onana. I have to say, the referees had a shocker of a game. And the assistants haven't been much better either. And Villa, while they have this free kick, are going to use their stoppage to their advantage and make some changes. So the game state has changed, and Unai Emery's going to make some substitutions. Non-enforced ones this time. The man who gave Aston Villa the lead, Tammy Abraham. I mean, it should have been disallowed. It was offside, but then again, nothing against him. Really good play from Villa. I mean, a really well worked free kick. Ultimately, Abraham didn't hold his run. He was offside, but that was just the starting point of what has been a chaotic cup tie here at Villa Park so far. He's replaced by the usual man at centre forward for Villa, Ollie Watkins. And 32-year-old Ross Barkley is going to be replaced by Emi Buendia. So attacking substitutions for Unai Emery. Some fresh legs up front, and certainly not going to try and sit in and soak up pressure, Villa. They've got nothing to lose, albeit they're still in the game. It's still level, but they have a tough task still with the final 25 minutes to go at 1-1. Newcastle have their first goal against Villa in 10 months and in 4 meetings since they scored here, as I said, in a 4-1 defeat last year. This is a very different state of affairs for Newcastle and Aston Villa, who played out a goalless draw on the opening weekend of the season, if you remember, all the way back in August. That was a crazy game in and of itself too. If I'm not mistaken, Villa were also down to 10 men in that game. They were, and Newcastle couldn't find a way past them. Mr. Konza was sent off in that game. We can tell you there's team news has dropped from the game that kicks off at 8 o'clock tonight in the FA Cup, Liverpool against Brighton. We can tell you that Arne Slot's gone strong. We'll tell you about that in a moment, as Villa have a throw in here. Digne tried to go for the cross on the rebound from Ollie Watkins' header. We do keep possession as Douglas Luiz couldn't go through the middle. No joy there, and Aaron Ramsdale picks it up. And now he tries to unleash Lewis Hall down the left. Quarter of the game to go. More than enough time for Newcastle to use their man advantage. Try and win this game. The Villa weren't motivated before. They're certainly going to be motivated now, although they've given it away cheaply. Tonali trying to poke it through. Torres had to throw a leg at it. Cleared it away. They wanted offside there, Villa, but clearance just about made by Pau Torres, and it's going to be a throw into Newcastle on the left-hand side. Rehydrating. Throw in here for Newcastle. Lewis Hall to take. Going long. Launched into the area. Comes off a Newcastle head. And then Voltamata. But cleared away by Emi Buendia. And a little bit of a slippy one there as Ollie Watkins got the ball. But the referee's going to give a free kick. Looked a little soft in my opinion. But let's see it again. Trippier, maybe was he tripped up? He was, to be fair. See it again, he was kind of inadvertently tripped up. Here come Newcastle. Ramsey with a cut back. Villa trying to scramble it away. Gordon has it zipping wide. Will be a corner. Took a deflection. See it here. Ramsey with all sorts of space. Drifts into the box, and on the cut back it bounces off a few players. And then falls into the path of Anthony Gordon, who strikes it clean. And then maybe takes a clip off the toe of Pau Torres and goes wide for the corner. Newcastle pushing. Try and turn this around. Kieran Trippier over it. Villa player down in the box, pushed down. Dan Burn involved. The referee's going to stop to assess. Claiming he was pushed in the neck here. Pau Torres. I mean, he was pushed, but I mean, get a grip. I mean, what on earth? And now he's having a go at the referee. I mean, get a life. Get a grip. Get on with the game. Acting like he's been strangled. I mean, get a life. Corner to Newcastle. Left-hand side. Pau Torres and Dan Burn still getting full grip of each other. It is Valentine's Day after all. Right-footed delivery. There's players down in the box as it's flicked on and behind for another corner, I believe. Dan Burns now complaining to the referee again. That battle continued on. Jesus Christ. There's nothing in that. Dan Burn goes down and claiming that he was fouled. I mean, this game's chaos. And Paul Tierney's having a real conversation with Unai Emery, who's not particularly happy. Corner delivered in again for the rebound. Bounces down to Tonali. Recycled wide it goes. Barnes back to Tonali. Chips it into the box. Over the head of Dan Burn. And behind for a goal kick. With 20 to go. Newcastle pushing. Not quite finding a way through again yet. With their one shot on target of the half. They have found a leveller, of course, with Tonali's effort, but need more if they're going to win this. I gotta say, I don't think I'm the only one hoping that this doesn't go to extra time. Emi Martinez goes long. Bouncing down. Ultimately, Villa tried to hold it up but couldn't get much joy out of it. Newcastle being and get tippy-tappy. No nonsense there from Amadou Onana. He got a glimpse of the ball and cleared it out for a throw-in. Hall down the left-hand side. Tonali. To Chow. Now Trippier. Heading up for the cross. Gets the cross. Cleared away ahead of Gordon by Onana, who dropped deep. As Villa try and conjures up something up on the counter. Well smothered by Trippier on the cover. Well, in 5 of the previous 6 seasons that these two have met in the FA Cup, either Villa or Newcastle have reached the final in that same year. With 2 of those seasons seeing the sides meet in the final, both in the early 1900s. Here's Anthony Elanga trying to skip past his man. Douglas Luiz got something to it and Digne could clear away. At the minute, it's one-way traffic. Newcastle attack and Villa defend. It seems like the 4th round is a bit of a curse for Aston Villa. They knocked Spurs out in the FA Cup 4th round last season, but haven't gone beyond this stage in consecutive seasons since doing so between 2008-9 and 2010-11. Ball in, down the back post. Elanga couldn't take it in. Trippier swipes at it. And that's a bit of an impatient strike from Trippier. That sees it go sailing for a goal kick. Lovely play down the left though. Good cross into the box and it drops. Elanga just couldn't take it in. Nicely done by Digne. Some claim he shouldn't be on the pitch, but he is. We told you we could get you team news from Anfield. We can now. So Liverpool have gone with Alisson in goal. Szoboszlai starts at right back, of course. He's suspended for the Premier League, but not for the FA Cup. So he starts at right back. Konate and Van Dijk at centre backs. Kirkes at left back. Jones and McAllister in midfield. Wirtz in the 10. Salah, Chiesa and Gakpo further forward for Liverpool. Ekitike rested along with Ryan Gravenberch, both on the bench for Liverpool tonight. For Brighton, Steele in goal, Veltman, Van Hecke, Dunk and Kadiolu in defence, Baleba, Hinshelwood and Gross in midfield, with Diego Gomez, Harry Howell and, of course, Kostoulas further forward for Brighton. That's an 8 o'clock kickoff from Anfield that will follow this one, as long as we don't go to extra time. If it ends in 90 minutes this game, we will be heading to Anfield at 8 o'clock. If not, well, we'll try our best, but no guarantees. 16 minutes to go. Tonali looking for the chip ball. Arrow towards Trippier at the back post. Digne gets a header but doesn't get very far away. Elanga picks it up. Linking up with Ramsey, back wide to Trippier, in behind for Elanga, who whips it across. Cleared away by Pau Torres, but that clearance sticks it behind for the corner. And Villa are going to make another change, actually going to make another double change it seems, not yet though, but it's Ian Matson and Jadon Sancho, that are the two that are being spoken to by Unai Emery. Some more changes afoot for Villa very shortly, but here's Trippier's corner, right-footed, zipped in, come off the head of Barnes, I think it was, and it sailed away from goal. Tonali trying to whip it in, up and away by Torres, picked up by Watkins, but that one's going to evade him completely, going out for a Newcastle throw. See it here, Harvey Barnes, free header, but he glances it right across goal rather than towards the net. Glanced it right across the box. Here's Elanga. Trying to go for the 1-2 with Ramsey. Nicely shielded by Lucadinha. Trippier, though, picks it up on the right side. Trying to whip it into his opposite fullback in Hall, but it's cleared away. Tonali again! And that one took no deflection. An arrow of a strike by Sandro Tonali has turned it around for Newcastle. A bolt of an effort from the midfielder. Right into the bottom left corner. And Newcastle have turned it around at Villa Park. And with 15 minutes or so to go, it's a lead they do not want to throw away. And Villa look completely disheartened. But you gotta say they've been riding their luck a lot in this game, Aston Villa. The Magic Genie hasn't granted them another wish. But that was a fabulous goal by Sandro Tonali. Again, a second phase, similar to the equaliser, and it was a clearance picked up on the edge of the box. This one, the first one took a deflection. This one was just pure class and quality from Sandro Tonali. Took a touch, set it up, rocketed with the right foot perfectly into the bottom left corner. It's as good as a goal as you'll ever see from that sort of range. Lovely goal. Low, hard, rocketed into the bottom left corner. And Sandro Tonali single-handedly has turned Newcastle's deficit into a lead. And a big hug with his manager. Eddie Howe knows how important Sandro Tonali is. And he might have just gifted Newcastle a passage into round 5. Still, time remains. As I said, Villa were going to make changes. They've now made those changes. Ian Matson and Jadon Sancho on for the final 10 to 15 minutes. Douglas Luiz and Morgan Rogers replaced. Voltamada. Newcastle want to go for more to make sure it's all done and dusted. Pau Torres need to make the header. He did, put it behind for the corner. Voltamada was the target. Torres was the man who met it and put it behind for another Newcastle corner. It doesn't take much for them to get topless, those Newcastle fans. They love being topless. It can be the coldest night on planet Earth and they'd still get topless. There's a man with a Sandro Tonali top. Midfield maestro. Well, you got to say he's done that this evening. Goal scoring maestro, you got to say. He's been fantastic around a goal, and Villa haven't given up on it yet. Watkins through ball there towards Matson was well overhit, but Villa want to give themselves something. You never know, lay it on. At the moment, they've got nothing to lose. They're behind and going out, and they need a goal. Newcastle have it all in their own way right now. Newcastle are going to make another change. Joe Willock's going to be coming on to replace Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey, who up until this season had played nearly every season, every year of his life, the vast majority of his life in Villa colours. until this season when he made the move to Newcastle. And Joe Willock on in his place for Jacob Ramsey for the final 10 minutes or so of this game. And Ramsey does, though, applaud the Villa fans, who respond with applause, which is nice to see. Watkins, Maatsen trying to squeeze it through for Sancho. Again, the three subs trying to link up there, almost made it work. But again, that Newcastle man advantage is shining through. Here's Gordon. Isolated down the left on his own, and he makes it work. Quite comfortably, Anthony Gordon. He has the ball in the left channel. Back to Hall, and now Newcastle will, yes, try and push for another goal to make sure it's completely out of sight, but they'll not take unnecessary risks. They'll, they have the lead, and we'll just try and manage this to a finish now. If they can find more goals, then that's great, but no need to go all out for it. Gotta say. Barnes, Hall, Willock, across to Chow, under pressure. Chow, though, skips away from Maatsen. Newcastle just popping it around comfortably now. Well, despite their away form this season, it's been far from positive for Newcastle. Looks like they're going to get back-to-back away victories, and actually have a good away record in the FA Cup. They've won 6 of the last 11 away games in the FA Cup, so a decent run of form. Drawn 2 and lost 3, having gone 15 without a win on the road beforehand. The Magpies have lost 10 of the last 13 away from home against Premier League opponents, however, failing to score in 8 of their last 9. So they're bucking the trend on that front, continuing what has been a pretty decent away record in the FA Cup in recent ties. Digne. Back to Pau Torres, and we'll play it across here to Lindelof. Torres. Still time for Villa if they want to try and find an equaliser. Only takes one chance. It's not out of the realms of possibility. Sancho. Nice ball, finds Maatsen. Digne. Wide to Maatsen. Villa having some possession here. Probably the best spell of the half. Sancho works into space, has a shot! And deflection from Malik Chow took it away from goal. It could have been arrowing in. Ramsdale, whether he was going to get to it or not, was still up in the air. Let's see it again. Oh, it looked like it was curling towards the net. Good ball. Really good strike. And Sancho giving Villa a bit of a lifeline here. Corner it is to Aston Villa. The home crowd haven't given up yet. Jadon Sancho injects a bit of energy. Still a good 6 minutes plus additional time to go. You never know. Digne to deliver. Left footed. Flicked on at the near post. Up and away. Not fully cleared though, as it is eventually by Alanga. Kept alive though by Bogard, who tried to link it up. Bogard on it again. Comfortable. Takes it down, does Sancho. Down the left side. Trying to spin away from the challenge of Voltemata. Sancho. Inside it goes to Maatsen. Options up there if he wants to find someone. Lays it out wide to Digne instead. Miami Buendia. Back to Luca Digne. Go for the cross. Cuts it back. Watkins on the touch. Couldn't get the shot off. Back to Sancho it comes. Villa putting pressure on here. Digne rolls it in behind. Buendia at the byline. Couldn't get it across. Tonali with a block behind for the corner. Maybe we aren't done just yet. You gotta say though, Aston Villa trying to push for that leveller. Well, it's been a second half where they, up until that Jadon Sancho effort, hadn't had a shot. It's given them a bit of life here in the final few minutes. Digne's delivery. Up and flicked on, up in the air as it's not cleared away and actually cleared behind for another corner off Kieran Trippier. A little bit lacking in concentration there, the experienced defender. He holds the captain's armband for Newcastle at the moment. Another Villa corner to come. Taken short. Oh, lovely skill here from Sancho. Cuts it back. Digne chips it into the area. Well defended by Dan Burn as it's picked up by Lindelof. Wide. Lindelof's cross. Oh, took a very heavy touch there to Digne. And it made it very difficult for Watkins to get anywhere near. Goal kick to Newcastle. We see Tonali's goal could be the winner. Would be, as it stands, the winning goal. Beautiful. Just a gorgeous strike. Minutes to go. Villa have applied as best a pressure as they have in the last few minutes, as they've done all half. Flick on here. Watkins was trying to make the run, but just comfortably defended by Newcastle as Trippier gives it back to Ramsdale. Took a heavy touch. Just away from Watkins at the last second, but Newcastle is certainly not cruising their way to a finish here. Villa are still giving them a good go. Here's Watkins. Kept it in play from the throat. Digne just dug it out. But couldn't keep possession, given away as Alanga on the charge on the breakaway now. 4v4. Alanga through to Barnes. He's kept it alive. He can find Gordon in the middle. Barnes dispossessed as Lemar Bogard was able to retrieve. Oh, he's made a mistake though. Bogard gone through and it's fired in. A mistake by Villa that is pounced upon by Nick Voltemata. And that's game, set, and match for Newcastle. They won't score a better one than that, or an easy one than that. And it's Aston Villa 1, Newcastle 3. Game, set, match to Newcastle, who will be going through, and Aston Villa, who will be going out. And it's really a mistake that came from nothing. You got to say it was all of Aston Villa's own doing, really. Lemar Bogard, he made a good challenge on Harvey Barnes initially, but he gives it away, plays it across his own 18-yard box. One of the first things you're taught as a defender, never play it across your 18-yard box. He does, and he makes the mistake. Willock was there to pick it up. And then Voltemata was there to pick up the pieces and fire it home for 3-1. Game over. Villa gave it a good try. But ultimately, mistakes are really the undoing of Aston Villa tonight. All night it's been. Mistake by Bizot to get sent off. And a mistake for the third goal, but a lot has happened in between. As Trippier has been replaced. Newcastle have made some more subs. And it's a rare trip to Villa Park. It's going to end in victory for Newcastle. Their last victory at Villa Park was in January of 2024 when they won 3-1. An own goal from Moreno and 2 Fabian Schär goals gave them a 3-goal lead before Watkins gave it a consolation for Villa, but 3-1 it ended to Newcastle that day. Looks like it's going to end that way here tonight. That's their only win at Villa Park for Newcastle in the last 13 years. So it's not a place that Newcastle travel to and do well in on too many occasions, but tonight it's going to be that they're going to get victory on the road. Back-to-back away victories will certainly garner some confidence for Newcastle to have a late push this season for European football next season. In terms of their league position, for Aston Villa, it will be a return to focus on, of course, a return to the focus of European football and Premier League football and trying to get Champions League for next season. That's going to be the key objective for Villa. Aston Villa are back in action next Saturday in the Premier League when they host Leeds here for a trip to Wolves, and then hosting Chelsea before a trip to Old Trafford in March. That's their next couple of games. Of course, they'll have Europa League knockouts action in between those, but for Newcastle, they're back in Europe in midweek. They have the knockout playoffs in the Champions League to take place in midweek. On Wednesday night, they're in action away at Karabag. One of the longest trips in Europe they can make, and they will make that trip, but off the back of 2 away victories, why not make it 3 on the road? And then they've the very easy task of going to Manchester City next weekend. They've reached real peak confidence, Newcastle, after a winless start to February, a winless end to January, a 5-game winless run. It looks like back-to-back victories are going to be on the signs for Newcastle. For Aston Villa, as I said, it's been a good run. A little bit inconsistent at times, but that win against Newcastle a few weeks ago, we say if teams play each other more than once in a small period of time, it's very rare that the games will ever match each other. They're very different affairs and very different results. Villa won 2-0 in the meeting in the Premier League at the end of January. A few weeks later, they're getting knocked out of the FA Cup by the same opponents in what has been a chaotic game at the best. And 1 minute of the 4 added to go, just to curtail this game to a close. Voltaman is going to get a free kick here. Emi Buendia with a foul. And it all comes back to that red card for Marco Bizot. That's when this game unravelled. That's when Newcastle surely knew that they were going to have something to go in their favour. As Villa really had control of the game up until that point. They were dominating the game. They were pushing for a second goal up until Marco Bizot got sent off. And the state of the game completely changed. But Newcastle found a way in the second half to use that man advantage. And Villa just couldn't keep Newcastle at bay. Sandro Tonali levelling via deflection. Then, with a rocket of his own, all of his own doing, to make it 2-1 before Nick Voltamata pouncing upon a poor mistake by Villa at the back to make it 3-1. 4 minutes are up, but Newcastle want to have one last attack. Ultimately, well defended, and the final whistle goes. So 10-man Aston Villa knocked out of the FA Cup, and Newcastle headed to round 5. They came from 1-0 down to lead and win 3-1, albeit Marco Bizot, as I said, the red card was the underlying and probably ultimately deciding moment in the game that turned it on its head for Villa. A moment of madness knocks Aston Villa ultimately out of the FA Cup in the end. A second half that Newcastle quite rightfully and expectedly dominated, but one man, Sandro Tonali, was the man who rifled Newcastle back into it on 2 occasions to single-handedly turn it around before Nick Voltemata added an extra little bit of quality on the end of it. Newcastle back-to-back away victories in what has been a season where they haven't been able to do that and get much joy away from home all season. But a Villa team that beat Newcastle in the league at home a few weeks ago. Newcastle have returned the favour by beating Villa on their patch in the FA Cup. Eddie Howe said this competition was important to Newcastle. Well, they will be in the draw and in the hat for round 5 on Monday night. But Villa really have a bit of a bad omen when it comes to the 4th round. And it's another bad omen that once again has come back to haunt them. Final score at Villa Park. It's finished Aston Villa 1, Newcastle 3. Confirmation of that result then, and one more game to come this Saturday in the FA Cup 4th round. It's Liverpool against Brighton, which is on the way very shortly. Do stay with us for that. Thank you very much for your company for this one. Newcastle through to round 4. Oh my goodness, what a crazy FA Cup tie that was. Thanks for your company. Bye-bye.